What's up, guys? It's your host here, Spartanic Arts DxD, back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have What If Issei Left, Part 6. If at all possible, I would love to hit 500 to 600 likes. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button, or click the first link down in the description below, and it'll lead you to where I have my channel memberships and I tell everybody when I upload. As well as if you're in the premiere, it's the first link literally in the live chat, so I really appreciate it. When you're in the premiere, hit the like button literally right now, because I'm here, you're here, you know, we're having a good time, so hit the like button. So thank you so much for the support. We're closing in on, we just hit like 36,000 subscribers. That was cool. I hit 56,000 on my other channel recently as well. Things are doing pretty good right now. Hopefully you didn't hear that through the screen, and I really do appreciate everything that's been going on. So yeah, I apologize part 6 took so long, but don't worry, this part is an absolute banger. So this one I think is probably around an hour or 50 minutes, something like that. So hopefully you guys do enjoy the video. Without further ado, let's go and thank my balance breakers: Aunt Lewis, Lachlan Yates, Jordan Patchow, Night Am, Refeek135, Slow, the Black Dragon Emperor, Keep Saying 21, $5 Sake, VR Wish Type 2347, XRX108, Ziki2000, Liana Gorko, Chaotic Raven, Selvix, Mazaku, Dr_MLG_ is the bomb, Grimfire Shot Gamer, Beta Joe 98, Responder, and Ryuga. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into part 6. So picking up where we left off, right in the middle, or my bad, right in the beginning of chapter 15. So let's continue. Well, go to sleep. Tomorrow will be a busy day, Ddraig said, yawning, preparing himself for what's to come. You're right. Good night, partner, Issei said, cutting off his mental communication. Issei came out of the bathroom and went to bed, where Seraphol was dressed in only a white t-shirt. When he seizes, he smiles, embracing the beauty of the Leviathan, and tries to lie down, but she pulls him on the bed on top of her. Basically, they smash and have a lover's talk, so I'm just going to cut to the next thing. The next morning, in the room of Zictodius and Velena, they were both changing out of their sleepwear and putting on normal clothes. Zictodius starts and gives you the idea of what you think they did. Zictodius says, Velena smiling as she turned to her husband. My instinct says so such you became a man. And tell me, what would you have done if you didn't do the deed? Zictodius said, intrigued but having a scared feeling of the response. Oh, I would have caught him. And tell all the maids to him. He is not leaving here a virgin. She was nonchalant in the matter, waving her hand dismissively. You would what? Zictodius said, uneasy from the response and hoping that he misheard his wife. I would have him raped. Nothing more, showing a determined look in her eyes that she meant what she said and proceeded to leave the room. Zictodius was left alone in the room and was sweating a bit out of fear, for he did not know this side of his wife, and he was thankful that the side did not address to him, although at the same time he asked that Issei did the deed, because otherwise he could not help him. Issei, my boy, I hope that you were able to get the job done, because I wouldn't want to see you being more than 150 women. Still sweating at the prospect of his wife carrying out her deed, after a few minutes he left the room to join his wife. Now in Issei's room. The light flittered through the window, which reached the eyes of the brunette and caused him to frown and open his eyes little by little. When his vision cleared up, he was about to move, but he felt a weight on his chest prevented him from doing so. Looking down, he saw the black-haired, only wore a button-down shirt that barely held her large breasts. However, that didn't take away from the beauty she possessed. Issei, yawning, it's already daytime. Moving the woman gently, we have to get up. His voice had a calm and renewed tone. Issei, a little surprised, felt completely refreshed and revitalized. He slept without a worry, no nightmares, as if sleeping near Seraphol reassured and comforted him. Last night was a night he would never forget. Seraphol frowned for a moment and covered herself with a blanket. Let me sleep, slightly annoyed by being woken up, but still held slightly toned to it. It was slightly seductive. No need to wake up, Issei said, trying to remove the blanket. I want to sleep, Seraphol said, increasing the strength of her grip on the blanket. You leave me no choice, Issei said, lifting the blanket little by little to get closer to Seraphol. Once inside the blanket, he looked at Seraphol's face upon it, and he began to kiss her passionately. Seraphol, noticing this, began to reciprocate. Oh my god, stop with this lovey-dovey crap. I'm kidding. They both stared at a couple of romantic kisses. As they kissed, Serafal tried to talk. "So, you wanted to wake me up?" Serafal said. She said in between kisses with a smirk on her face, not minding the wake-up call. "Well," giving her a little kiss, "it's already daytime." I guess you're right," Serafal said, a little surprised to see it was already daytime. "Yeah, it's better that we get up and take a bath," Issei said, getting out of his bed. Seeing this, Serafal opened her arms to Issei with anticipation of being carried. "What do you need?" Issei said, confused by Serafal's actions. "I don't know. It's just that a guy and I had mind-blowing in that I can't move my legs," in an annoyed, but also embarrassed tone at her predicament. "Ah, I see," with a little blush about his performance, but internally he had some smugness that he performed better than his former rivals, if that conversation from the dining room that he heard was any indication. Issei would get Serafal up and carry her to the bathroom. "Alright, leave me in the water and I can do the rest alone," while in the arms of Issei. However, Issei did not lower it from his arms. What's wrong, Issei?" Confused by what he was not moving. "Well, I don't plan to leave a helpless girl who can't move in alone in a bathroom. How about I help you?" With a malevolent smile that didn't bode well for Serafal. Serafal was a little scared because she leaned and experienced the last night that smile meant. "Issei, we can't," trying to negotiate. Issei replied, "Oh," he said in a sad tone. Serafal, seeing this, felt bad and decided to remove the kiss passionately. Issei, during the kiss, brought her to the sink, and Serafal on the counter, his hands roaming while still kissing her. Oh my god. He spread his legs and ripped her shirt open, causing her... Bro, no way! Oh my god. Skip. All the way to the kitchen and dining room. A gentleman with white hair and beard wearing a suit at the corridor that led to the kitchen, seeing the couple who owned the mansion, greeted them. "Good morning," Sekiryuutei-sama and Velena-sama bowing respectively. "Hello, Ronaldo." "Good morning," Velena says in a cheerful tone in her voice. "Ah, Ronaldo, I already told you that you can call us by our name without honorifics," Sekiryuutei said. "None of that, sir. Even though it's true, today Lords Surzex and Ajuka-sama have come to visit," maintaining a calm tone despite Sekiryuutei's protest. "Oh, Surzex is here," Velena said, slightly confused by her elder son's visit. "Yes, Velena-sama, he came not too long ago, about..." taking out a pocket at 5 to 7 minutes, storing the watch back in his coat pocket. "And where is he?" Sekiryuutei's son. "He is in the dining room with Ajuka-sama," Ronaldo said. "Oh, Ronaldo, has Issei woken up yet?" Curious about the answer. Issei-sama is not awake, but if you want, I can send a maid to wake him up," remembering that Issei was staying over, but Sekiryuutei told him that it was a secret, so only he knew this, among the servants. "You may send whenever he's not awake, but if not, leave him. Maisochi needs his rest," Velena said. The smile remained present on her face. "Right away," Ronaldo said, calling a maid and telling her to go to room 386 to see if the resident was awake. "What are you plotting?" Sekiryuutei said, looking towards his wife. "Me?" Velena says. "Well, nothing," speaking in a tone almost too innocent. "Yeah, of course," Sekiryuutei said, speaking sarcastically before seeing Ronaldo, who came taking the maid. "I have sent a maid for him." "Thank you. Well, if anything, you warned me," Sekiryuutei says, starting to walk to the dining room. "Bye, Ronaldo," bidding her farewells to the servant walking with her husband. "Farewell, Velena-sama." Sekiryuutei-sama, leaving to go to the other side of the mansion. Ronaldo does. Now, in the dining room, Surzex, Ajuka, and Grapethia talking about worldly things until they notice Velena and Sekiryuutei enter the dining room. "Hello," Velena says, waving in cheerful manner. "Hello, Velena-sama. How are you?" Grapethia says in her usual serious tone. "Oh, come here," grabbing Grapethia's hand and taking her to the corner. "I have something to tell you." The mischievous smile adoring her face. Again, Sekiryuutei, Ajuka, and Surzex looked on with conflicted and confused face at seeing this. "What is going on with Mother?" Surzex says, looking towards his father for an answer. "I don't know," in a defeated tone, Sekiryuutei replies, looking towards the ceiling. "Sekiryuutei-san, are you okay?" Ajuka says, a little worried about the attitude of the Gremory leader. Yeah, I'm fine," without taking his gaze off the ceiling. "Hello, father. Where is Issei?" Surzex said, looking back and forth, seeing no signs of the brunette. "Yes, and also Serafal. She must have arrived before us, but she is not here either," Ajuka said. "Well," Sekiryuutei was turning to the two mouths, "I don't think I should say it. It'll be better for them to wait." It was said in a strange tone that the two mouths were confused because they could see he was sad, but in the sadness there was pride, Sekiryuutei. "Okay," Ajuka replied, a little surprised, but in his thoughts, "I do not believe that something happened with Issei and Serafal, but the behavior of Velena-sama and Sekiryuutei say otherwise." Well, my boy Issei got the goods. "Anyway, Lord Seatree," Surzex says, "Lady Seatree, Lord Phoenix, and Lady Phoenix, and they will come after breakfast, and Odin, He would be coming in a while. I see. Well, I'll go cook to prepare a few more portions, leaving to handle the task, Todius says. The mouths remained silent as the Grumbley leader left, but out of nowhere they heard Graphia scream. What? Graphia said, covering her mouth, embarrassed by how loud she was, then speaking in a softer tone. It can't be true, feeling dismayed by what she was informed. Oh, but it is, with a playful smile, Valena replied. They both looked at women, very confused, but decided not to pay attention to them. Sursex, where's Milikis? Ajuka said. He came with Graphia and I went to play for a while. He should come back before the meal, Sursex said. Oh, I see, Ajuka replied, maintaining his calm demeanor. And out of nowhere, the little boy appeared through the door. Ha! You can't catch me, running to the chair, Milikis said. The maid panting, Milikis, please don't run, trying to keep up with the boy. Milikis, appearing behind his son, who was behind a chair, Sursex does. The little boy turned around, seeing his father behind him. I can explain, scared of his father's presence. Oh, really? Well, then explain with a smile that promised punishment. Well, spotting his mother and Valena, grandmother running to Valena. So good to see you, becoming cheerful, feeling saved. Sursex watched him go, and just sighed and turned his attention towards the maid. I apologize, Sursex says. Don't worry, it's all right, Lucifer-sama, catching her breath and retreating from the room. Sursex looked at Milikis was. He thinks he was saved, Sursex says, smiling a little maleficently and sitting next to Ajuka. Having a hard time, Ajuka says, with a little mockery in his voice after seeing such a scene. Haha, when you have a child, you will not laugh. By the way, what happened with Ladia? Sursex said, curious about the new Astaroth Harris. Oh, she is training with Servia, downplaying her importance. That makes sense, knowing of the relationship between the two Harrises, but there's something I'd like to know. How did you feel with condemning Dodoria? Sursex said. Ajuka looked at Sursex, understanding what this was about, since he had been through it and he knew much about his friend Love's family, so he answered as best as he could. I felt anger with myself and disappointment for not seeing him to be raised properly. He was a smart young man despite his fetish for nuns, but at the same time, I am a leader and I had to do that was best for the Alliance, Ajuka said. I see, Sursex says, staring off into space. Sorry, Rias, but Ajuka's right. I am a leader. I wish things could have been handled differently, but if you didn't want to be with Issei, why didn't you tell him? What were you thinking? But no matter, you claim to be mature, so I guess it's time to leave you on your own, Sursex says in his head. Now, in Issei's room, Serval was sitting on the bed while combing her hair calmly until the door opened. Excuse me, are you awake? The maid said, respectively entering the room to check if the occupant is awake. Yes, you may enter, Serval says. The maid entered, hearing and seeing in the Mao in the room, and then noticed some of the clothes that were on the floor, which left her a bit confused. When she saw Serval, her instincts as a woman told her to be afraid, just by sitting. The Mao did not emit an aura of child's play, but a one of kindness and maturity. The maid covered her mouth, knowing the reason for this was confirmed by seeing a shirtless man with no pants and no shoes, and a towel on his head that came out of the bathroom. Who was it? Issei said, coming out of the bathroom while drying his hair. Oh, so you finished, with an arrogant smile, Serafal said. Yes, and remove your ice from my hair, Issei said, slightly annoyed. Maid starts. If I may interrupt, but Valena-sama and Zictodia-sama wait for them in the dining room, along with Lucifer and Beelzebub, being respectful, but she tried to know who was the man who could took the virginity of the Mao. Okay, could you bring us a wheelchair? Issei said, a little embarrassed. What? The maid said, surprised by the request and confused, since she believed both were capable of walking on their own. It's for me, Serafal said, with a big blush on her face. Upon hearing those words, the maid understood what she meant. I understand. I shall bring you what you request, leaving the room with a blush while thinking, damn, he must have been a beast in bed. He put Leviathan-sama in a wheelchair. I have to tell the others, the maid said. The boy watched as the maid left quickly. I'm so sorry. It's all your fault. If you haven't delayed us, we wouldn't be in this mess, annoyed by having to ask for a wheelchair, Serafal says. None of that miss coming close to Serafal taking her to the chin. I wasn't the one who wanted to go for it for 10 more times. Giving her a kiss on the forehead, Issei said, huh, but you didn't say no, Serafal said. Why would I say no to a beautiful woman? Giving her another kiss on the cheek this time. Where did you get these phrases from, Serafal said, slightly timid from the roleplay. Easy, giving her a kiss on the cheek, from Paul. You can get all kinds of things from in this situation. I think it helps, smirking because of the proudness in the bedroom. Wait, what? Serafal, being interrupted as he kissed her lips. Issei, smirking from the kiss, Weren't you the one who wanted to hurry? Smirking once again. You're right, so go ahead and get dressed. Becoming serious, narrowing her eyes, indicating she was not playing around. Wow, you look so hot when you get serious, trying to go in for another. However, Seraphol was having none of it as she raised her hand, stopping Issei. Go and get dressed, Seraphol said. All right, backing off a bit, but he had to jump back, dodge, and he was almost on the small pillar of ice. As she threatened to attack him again with another pillar of ice, Seraphol did. I'll be back, Ice Queen. A little mockery in the tone, going back into the bathroom, dodging another piece of the ice thrown at her. Seraphol lowered her head and firing the last piece of ice, sighing after Issei closed in the bathroom. She continued to comb her hair, but she went into her pigtails. She stopped. Remembering the promise she made with Issei, she preferred to leave her hair down and loose. With Issei was in the bathroom, putting on a black shirt with a red dragon on the back. Ha ha! Aren't you gallant? Ddraig says, making his presence known as the Grem gem appeared on Issei's left hand. Quiet. He completely forgot Ddraig was there. Yes, you better hurry because otherwise you will earn a blow from the pillar of ice, Ddraig said. Shh, you're right, Issei said, coming out of the bathroom. When Issei saw Seraphol, he was stunned by the chance of the wardrobe. She had on a blue skirt with light blue and green snake details, a dark blue shirt with light blue details and feather tips on the sleeves and split down her cleavage. It was short enough to show her navel. She wore a white type crip on her shoulders that signified her leadership, which the sea tree symbol had on the back, and finished off with some dark blue heels. Her hair was down in bangs that framed the side of her face and head. She was sitting near the foot of the bed, where Issei could see that the skirt had slid on the left side, showing off her leg. It raised sex appeal as the whole did the outfit, which included her curves. She was simply beautiful in the eyes of Issei, looking more of a woman than a busty loli. She literally looks like Boa Hancock's outfit. Ddraig whistling. You hit the jackpot. The Red Dragon was impressed by Seraphol's appearance. Seraphol was in lost thought, but noticed that Issei was staring at her, and so she smiled at him. Issei felt a sword pierce down it when Seraphol smiled at him. So how do I look? Seraphol said. Her tone was flirtatious. She puts her arms under her breast to highlight them as exposure of his cleavage. Do you like it? Before she knew it, Issei was on top of her. Doing all his normal Issei things. Yeah, I like, but please tell me, are you sure you don't want to be able to walk permanently, Issei says. Seraphol blushed at the prospect, but also kissed him affectionately. Before last night, she was inexperienced, but after 35 times, she was able to gain some experience to please a lover. Both got lost on each other's lips, blah, blah, whatever. Before you rip off each other's clothes, may I remind me that you both have meetings to attend to, Ddraig said. He did not want to hear the two having again in the morning. They already did it in the bathroom. He knew that Issei was suppressed from his coma, that he once didn't help either. Both separated just in time, and the maid entered, making her entrance to inform that she completed the task she was asked to do. Miss Seraphol. The chair is located next to the door, the maid said, leaving the room once again. Thank you, Seraphol says. Issei, watching her adjustment and outfit, I don't know if I understand I didn't fall in love with you before. Getting out of the bed, then helping Seraphol. Well, I'm glad that I've also been willing to fall in love with you. Her eyes softened as she looked at Issei as he helped her off the bed. If you continue like that, we won't leave this room, Issei says, turning his face away from Seraphol and not wanting to be hypnotized under the gaze of this woman. She was so seductive. No wonder how she considered one of the most beautiful women in the underworld. Well, when you come back, we can go on some dates, though I wouldn't be surprised if you fell for another woman that is acquainted with the supernatural while on your journey, but remember, turning his face towards her, I am the Alpha, are we clear? Her eyes hardened, showing that she was serious about her place in his healing heart. Issei, blushing at Seraphol, took control. Clear. Seraphol smiling at the response. It's time we change for the better. Promise? Yeah, promise, Issei said, smiling back, remembering his words from last night. I will get stronger, and I will be better than before, Issei said to himself. Couldn't have said it better myself, partner, Ddraig said, enjoying Issei's determination and striving for greatness. Well, we better look at the chair. They must be waiting a long time for us. But inwardly she thought, I think my legs may be out for weeks, rather than a few months. I almost feel bad for the other future woman that spent a night with Issei, but I'm, in the indication, definitely worth it, Seraphol said. Oh, right. Hang on a sec, walking up the door before opening it the hallway of the wheelchair. Upon seeing it, he took it and brought it into the room. Suddenly, a thought occurred to him. Do you know what you can take a phoenix to your right? Issei says, bringing him to Seraphol. Perhaps, but because of my pride, I will overcome this pain naturally. But if this happens again in the future, gesturing to her immobile legs, I will not take a tear every time, and now help me opening her arms to Issei. Okay, taking her arms to help carry her and set her in the chair. It's a shame for this pain, Serafal says, before looking towards Issei with a sly smile. Perhaps we may bring a new person to this world one day. Issei, blushing at her words, Serafal, look away, embarrassed. Oh, so, it's Serafal now. Before you were moaning, Sarah-chan, Okay. Please don't arouse me like that, or we won't be leaving this room again, Issei said. Perhaps you're right. You better contain yourself, Serafal says. Well, let's go. I'm already getting hungry, Issei said, pushing his chair and leaving the room. But do you know how to get there, Serafal says. Yeah, Issei replied. Well, then we go. Leaning back in the chair, allowing Issei to take control of the wheelchair. Off we go, Issei said, repeating the words, and began to wheel the chair towards the dining room. As they were walking, they didn't know there were a group of 15 maids watching them, gossiping about them. I can't believe it, Maid 1 said. I know, I didn't believe it. Seems to be true, Maid 2 said. Who is he? He looks familiar, referring to Issei, since he was pale from the disease. Well, to be able to stay here means that they know the lady and the lord, Maid 8 said. They kept gossiping until when Ronaldo was walking by, so they scattered to get the word, promising to talk again about the new couple. Now, in the dining room... So, his body disappeared, Sectodius. So it seems. But that's the weird thing, he should be dead, Serzek said. For what it's worth, it's impossible for him to be alive. Pondering upon its discovery, Ajuka replied. It's true. Appearing in the next chair to Ajuka, Odin says. Ajuka, Serzek, Sectodius. Ah! Frightened by the sudden appearance of the all-seeing father. What? You look like you've seen a ghost, Odin said. His tone was mocking them, but the hint of amusement at seeing such grown men looked frightened. Zectodius, calming down, Hello, Odin-san. Odin replies, Hello, Zectodius. And how are you doing, Odin Dono? Serzek said, All right. It was said nonchalant as if he was downplaying it. It looks like the food is ready, but where is Issei? Ajuka said, seeing now the maids begin to bring up the dishes, set them next to the table. Ah, you're right, Zectodius replied. I guess Serafal still hasn't woken up, Serzek says. But out of nowhere they heard some noise coming from the door. See, we didn't get lost, Issei said, proud of getting here, while the red dragon inside of him could only shake his head. Oh yes, but after 7 minutes of going down a hallway to hallway, her eyes were closed. But it seems that she was annoyed by the tick near her eyebrows, Serafal said. Don't be like that, Issei said, trying to speak in a sad tone. That tone will no longer work with me, Serafal said. Are you sure, Issei says, getting in her face, teasing her for something to happen. Yes, her gaze never faltering. Your mouth says one thing, but your eyes say something else, smiling at her. And what do my eyes say? Issei, Serafal said. This. Going for Fukuoka's, however, Serafal had other plans. As Issei leaned for the kiss, Serafal hand grabbed him by his face, stopping his advances. Issei, I told you not to do that, and it seems like my eyes and mouth are speaking the same. Annoyed by what Issei tried to do. Yes, I understand, Issei replied, opening the door of the dining room. Upon entering the room, they were met with the immense silence, and everyone looked at them in a strange way. The woman, one had an incredulous expression and looked other excited and proud. The men, two were confused and had a face of relief, and the last one was incredulous of what he was seeing. Why are you looking at us like that? Issei said. Serafal, when did you arrive? Serzek said. And why the chair? Ajuka replied, though he had an idea for the reason. If Latonia falls for Issei, oh dear. Both newcomers and remained silent, until Velena approached them with some tremendous speed. I don't believe it, Velena says, her eyes gleaming with pride and her happiness. She quickly hugs Issei tightly and whispers in his ear, Well done, and then goes to hug Serafal. What's going on, Vinny-chan? Serafal says. She was being embraced by the Machiris. Well, how should I tell you this? Look at your appearances, showing a little more skin, referring to Serafal's new outfit. So tell me, how many times did you do it with my son? Via side coming out. Both of them blushed at the question, but out of nowhere a scream was heard. I can't believe it! Running to Issei. My perverted companion has ceased to be a virgin, Odin says. What? Serzex replied. My guess is just what I thought, Ajuka said, while thinking to himself, I really hope you'd survive if you fall for him, Latia. Well, it looks like that. Well, look at that, Sectodia said, getting up and hugs Issei, and the kid became a man. While he looked proud on the outside, on the inside he was disappointed even more in his daughter. If only you didn't do what you did, Rias, Sectodia said. To think this would happen, Grafia said, shaking her head and rubbing her temples. What the hell is going on here? Serzex replied, still incredulous about the whole situation. Well, clapping Issei on the back, this dragon has ceased to be a virgin, smiled giggly Odin said. Issei, is that true? Serzex said, turning his attention towards the young Sekiryuutei. Issei only nodded his head. Well, getting up and giving Issei a hug, I'm happy for you, separating the hug and patting Issei on the shoulder. But like his father, he thought to himself, why did you have to do what you did? Serzek said to himself. Ah, thanks. It's better that we sit down, Issei said. Oh yes, I want all the details, Velena said, excited to hear about the night the two lovebirds had. Velena, control yourself, Sekiryuutei said, whispering in an ear of his wife. No, Velena said, sending a glare to her husband's way. Ah, damn it, Sekiryuutei replied, feeling defeated by his wife's stubbornness. Each one sat down back at the table, and Issei directed Serafal's wheelchair to the table and attended to her knees, treating her like the empress that she was in front of everyone. Issei secured a spot for Serafal at the dining table and sat into her the wheelchair before taking a seat next to her. They're so cute, Velena said. A teasing smile sent the couple's way. Serafal, while not minding Issei's action, was not going to be teased by Velena's comment. She made a promise, and she was going to stick by it. Fanny-chan, Serafal said, upset by the Grandma's Marche's comments, and released a little of her aura towards the brunette woman. I didn't do anything, Velena said with a playful tone, but to herself she knew, at least not yet. Well, Issei, looking on his expression unnerved, my boy, you really did do some work on her, leaving her without being able to move her legs. I'm impressed, Odin said. His tone was a mix of mockery, amusement, and astonishment. Father, what's she talking about, Milikis says, not understanding the situation. Nothing, Serzek says. We're just interrogating a criminal, Serzek replies, looking towards Issei with a smile that gives with the brunette an eerie feeling. Since when did I become a criminal? Issei says, becoming annoyed at the cadre. We're the ones asking the questions, not you. The only man overly calm despite the situation, Ajuka is. Ah, yes. You're right, Ajuka Onoda says. You better answer truthfully, Issei ni, seeing his father smile, knowing that he saved himself from it earlier, Milikis says. Issei went from annoyed to a bit nervous, so he looked at his last hope. Hey, old man. But he saw him disinterested because his son's attitude was similar to his wife. You're on your own, kid, Sekiryuutei said. Issei replied, seeing how Sekiryuutei wasn't putting up a fight. The woman saw Issei questioned as if he was a criminal. Should you help him, Serafal said, watching as she was confined to the wheelchair from her and Issei's activities of last night and this morning. None of that, missy. Going to playful serious in her serious tone, Velena does. You owe us an explanation, Grafia said. She was curious at how this transpired between the Mao and her little brother. Serafal knew that she was quite for talking. And seeing how Issei was now tied to a chair that he was sitting in, she knew that he would be no help. Damn, Serafal says when she felt a hand on her shoulder. Now what happened between you and my Soji, Velena said, getting a little payback by releasing her own aura back on Serafal. Serafal is scared of what to come. You can scream all you want. No one will help you, and we're going to get the answers that we're looking for, Grafia said, turning Leviathan's head in her direction. And so now the couple, the Leviathan and the Red Dragon, were interrogated by their peers, as Milikis watched on, feeling sorry for his big brother figure, but not too sorry. Better them than me, Milikis says, looking on the better interrogations and secretly hoping he was saved from his parents' wrath due to the trouble that caused by her maids today. 15 minutes later. How beautiful, Velena says, crying a little from the information that she received from the new couple and how their relationship began. I agree, Grafia said with her usual serious tone, but couldn't help to compare that she fell for Serzek to how the new couple fell for another. So, that's how he went from a boy to a man. Gives a thumbs up and at Issei's a compliment, Odin does. Ajuka says, it looks like we'll be getting Serafal of the old, smiling, remembering how she could strike fear into anyone, gaining the position of Leviathan. I agree, Serafal said. As they spoke, Issei and Serafal, they were hugging in a corner room, or rather, Issei was hugging Serafal, scared for his life. That, Serafal said, she was scaringly calm, despite the interrogation she went through. That was horrible, Issei said, clearly more scared than Serafal was. Both remained in the corner, with Serafal having to calm her lover down. Clearly he went through his interrogation much worse than she did. Initially she was scared, but she remembered who she was, in her position, and didn't back down from the questions asked of her. My lord, Phoenix and Seatree portraits have arrived, appearing at the door of the dining room, and Aldo does. I want to see the face of Zavr, Lord Seatree, when he sees his daughter in his current state. Very happy. From watching the interrogation Issei endured, it was likely to get a repeat performance, Sekiryuutei said. Shit, Issei said, scared of what's to come, whereas Serafal steeled herself in this confrontation, ready to reveal her true self once again. And that is the end of Chapter 15. Chapter 16. Shit, and I wanted a quiet day, Issei said, getting up from the corner of the room. Issei, you need to relax, it's just my mother and father. Try not to be nervous, okay? Serafal said, leaning back in the chair, preparing to deal with her parents. I guess you're right. The truth is they were going to find out at some point, Issei said, sitting in the chair next to Serafal, but it will be problematic. Xavier, or Lord Seatree, starts talking. Hello, Zictodius, entering the room. Lady Seatree, or Sophia. Hello, Valena, greeting from the Marshwretch in a friendly tone, following her husband into the room. Greetings, Xavier. Get up from the seat to offer a handshake to his fellow Patriarch. Richard, or Lord Phoenix. How are you all? As he says, entering the Seatree portraits. We're fine. All is well. Not much has happened accompanying her husband's to greet the fellow clan leaders. Of course, with all that's happened since last night, the Gremory Marshwretch was feeling on a different level. Oh, hello, Issei, Lady Phoenix said, greeting the teenager kindly, but there was a slight tint of sadness. At the moment, the other three visitors noticed Issei, who looked on and waved. While he seemed calm on the outside, he was mentally freaking out inside. Calm down, partner, Ddraig said. You're not the one who has to deal with your mate's parents, Issei said. And who are you partnered with, Ddraig said. What? Issei replied. Who are you partnered with? Whom do you share your titles with? Ddraig said. The Oppai Dragon? Issei said, a little confused. Our other title, Ddraig says, a little angry at the mention to be soon former nickname. The Red Dragon of Domination, Issei says. Good, good. So stop your bitching and dominate the situation, Ddraig said, sitting back and letting Issei handle the situation. So with the quick pep talk and confidence that his partner instilled in him, Issei responded back to his greetings. Hello, Lord Phoenix, Lady Phoenix, turning his attention to the Seatree Patriots. My in-laws, smiling confidently, and from the corner of his eye, he sees Seraphal raise her eyebrow at him. He's got some balls, Seraphal says, but then she remembered last night. Yeah, he does. A smirk now forming on her face. I think I'll handle that pretty well, Issei said. I knew you were reckless, but I must say, that was bold, Ddraig said. The Seatree Patriots were surprised at what they were just called. When they turned to Seraphal, they could see a change. Her aura did not seem to have a childlike quality as before. Now it's mature and serious, along with the power that it held. What do you mean, your in-laws? Richard said, turning to Issei, surprised and confused. Issei, you ruined the surprise, Valena said, annoyed because Issei took the thunder. Well, someone had to say it. Might as well be me. If he looked in his mother's direction, he would have possibly experienced the death stare she was sending his way. Well, that was direct, Seraphal said, feigning annoyance, but keeping it to herself from laughing. Well, I had to dominate the situation, Issei said. I guess you did that and got right to the point, rubbing his cheek affectionately before giving him a tender kiss. Xavier in disbelief. Zictodius, perplexed at the scene before him. Sophia, I can't believe it, covering her mouth in shock. It seems that they forgot what we were here, nodding to the couple that was still kissing, Odin said. Could you explain to me what's going on? Richard said. Yes, but before that, pointing to the couple still kissing, we should probably separate them, don't you think? Diana replied. Yes, you're correct, Serzek says, clearing his throat. Issei! Yes? From Seraphal, who glazed at Serzek for ruining her time. At the Mal Lucifer did a slight shiver go down his spine. You forgot that we're still here, Ajuka said. It's true, Issei Ni, nodding in agreement with the Mal Beelzebub. Malikis said. Ah, forgive me, Seraphal replied, giving a bow as she could from within her wheelchair, embarrassed that she still repressed to begin to take over. Well, you have a lot to explain, Lady Seatree said, coming out of her shock. I guess so, Issei replied, a little nervous about the explanation to come. You damn dragon, how dare you do that to my daughter, Xavier said, going after Issei with great thirst for blood, while the Afro-Biman ran for his life. Oh, Xavier, keep him alive for me. He still needs to be punished, Valena said, despite the smile on her face. They could tell that she was serious. But Oak Sutton, shocked by his mother's betrayal. You ruined your mother's surprise, so you must pay the price, Valena said. Damn, Issei replied, dodging the water spell aimed at him. Try to survive, dear, Valena said, amused by her son's predicament. Now, 15 minutes later. I see. Well, Issei, I give you permission to be with my daughter, proud of having his daughter's back, Xavier says. Or lady, or my bad. The Seatree guy. You know, her father. Lady Seatree says, I say the same, crying a little for his new union and seeing the maturity that her daughter new possesses. Well, they didn't waste time with a little mockery, but glad that Issei was moving on to people that appreciate him and value him. Richard was pretty happy. Honey, Diana said, giving him a nudge to the ribs. Yes, I heard the news 2 times it's incredible. Excited about how Issei and Seraphal bonded, Valena said. Yes, and now that we're finished talking about it, there are 3 things that I want to talk about with those present. His voice was serious, and despite his sickly appearance, he demanded attention. You didn't tell me you wanted to say something. Confused by what Issei had to say, Seraphal was pretty confused. Issei starts. Because I wanted everyone to listen. I do not want to repeat myself. His tone was still and serious, which made the others see something new in Issei. Surzex replies, we're ready to listen, and we will be supportive of what you have to say, thinking to himself, his tone is similar to mine. You really have grown, Issei. Maybe my plan will still come to fruition after all. I agree, Odin says, calm but curious of what the boy had to say. You had count on my support as well, Ajuka says. The clan leaders nodded and sat down, seeing that Issei was very serious. Well, first, as you know, I will be gone for a few months to a year. I want the High Council to know why I left, and you can make it known to the public and the other factions as well, Issei said. That is fine, but why such a time length? Ajuka said. You know my reasons, but I'd also like to move on to the third year of my school and finish my education, Issei said. I understand, Ajuka replied. Anything else? Valena said. Secondly, I want the Oppai Dragon money that has been collected to split up 65% can be distributed among the girls, the Hyoudou, and Azazel 0.25% if possible. I'd like to invest it into rebuilding of Sona's schools. Oros Academy and the last 10% I'd like to give in to the younger Saji siblings, though children shouldn't suffer for their brother's actions. I'd also like the Oppai Dragon show to be cancelled within a year from today, Issei said. What? Serafal said. She was confused, perplexed, astonished at what Issei wanted to do with the money. Boy, the money is yours, Odin says. I know, but a large part is theirs. After all, they had characters on the show, and the Crow was a producer, so they can have their share. Something tells me they're going to need it, Issei says. Lastly, I want any punishment they give them to be effect when they try to seek me, Issei says. Shouldn't you want it to be done as quickly as possible? Richard, confused by why it should be prolonged. Easy. If they find out that they're exposed, they will look for me, and I haven't prepared myself, Issei said. But you just have to deny them, nothing more, Surzex says. And they would begin to bother you, Ajuka, a Serafal, and I think you've enough of your sister's pathetic tantrums, Issei said. It's true, and this is my fault for spoiling her. Forgive me, Surzex says. What's done is done. Don't apologize for another's careless actions, Issei replied. Since the money will go to them, all economic help from the Gremory family would be cancelled indefinitely, Sectodius said. I'd say the same. The Phoenix family will cease to offer them support, Richard said. From today, every economic reparation of all aid contact to them will be confiscated. All titles will be reindexed, and they will be with that money and nothing else, speaking in agreement of the clan leaders, Surzex finishes. Everyone nodded in their heads in agreement, but also the thought that Issei was too good for them, except Serafal, who saw while pondering what Issei was planning, until she noticed the slight smirk on his lips. So it's a smokescreen, Serafal said. He only gave them the money so he continues to fulfill what he intends to do in peace, while we decide the punishment. He's using their impulsive nature against them, which will help lead them to the punishment when they do realize what the money came from, Serafal says to herself. This came out better than I thought, Issei says. I'd say, using the Oppai Dragon money as a smokescreen for you to train in peace. Impressive, Ddraig said. Well, that is all. Is there anything you want to know? Issei says. Yes, Issei, when do you leave? Surzex replied. After this meeting, waving it off as if it was nothing. I see, Odin said, being left in thought. Why? Issei replied. Did you forget what you wanted to ask me? Ajuka said, talking about the 7 mountains of books on the 7 magical circles. Oh, I did forget, Issei said, remembering the books that he planned to ask before his encounter with the Hyoudou. Ajuka starts chuckling. It's good that I saw your memories, so I could retrieve everything you wanted to ask, and while Shamazi could not get Azazel's notes about sacred gears, since it was lab where he was doing that, he and Barkil got something better. These are notes by the Sanatiel, a former Catstrade. You may also learn about the artificial sacred gears that he distributed long ago. He called them Tagus. According to those two, Sanatiel was more proficient than Azazel in knowledge of sacred gears. Their only copy of the notes. They didn't want to make Azazel suspicious. If you want to learn more about the Sanatiel, I suggest you visit Tobio. He and his team may know more, since they faced him. Also, Sourorg's Rook, Londa Boone, provided a book from his clan. It should be more of use when you recover your draconic powers, Ajuka says. I see. Thank you, Issei says, getting up and putting the books away. I also have some things for you and a gift from Tanin, Surzex says, taking out a box as big as Issei's head. Ochi-san? What is it? Issei says. Well, It's not as much, but in case you get into trouble, here's 10 bottles of Phoenix Tears, and from Tanin, these daggers that he had forged from a chipped scale and claw from Great Red when he challenged him years ago, but was ignored and infused with Tanin's own power, pulling forth 2 daggers with 2 blades that were blood red and made the dragon bones. They also emitted immense draconic energy. My other gift will be given when you return, Ddraig says. Those blades look sick, by the way. Thank you, Issei says, taking the box and storing the materials in his storage space. These daggers would bode well for a simulation, Ddraig said, extracting a bit of power from the daggers to unite with the boosted gear. Velena and I also have something for you, Sekiryuutei says. Ronaldo, calling for the servant. Ronaldo entered the room with a box in his hands and gave it to Issei. What is this? Issei said, opening the box to see several clothes, along with a wine-red coat, or rather, crimson coat that was folded. It reminded him of Drake's scales, and that had black padding on where the shoulders would be positioned. In addition to some clothes, Sekiryuutei says, we named the coat the Shroud of the Conqueror. It seemed befitting, since, with how you've been able to best all of our enemies and how you fought on the battlefield, it seemed like the right name. When you put magic power in it, can be hardens, can be equal to that of scales of a high-class dragon. We had a little assistance from Tanin and the other dragons to determine its durability. Proud of the accomplishment that he and his wife developed. Originally, it was supposed to be given to Issei when he married Rias, but due to the events that have transpired, that won't happen, and they didn't want to mention it either. Today was the day of celebration of sorts, Sekiryuutei said to himself. It's incredible, Issei said, in awe, as he felt the coat in the box. It was something that was befitting of a high-class devil, or even an ultimate-class devil. It sounded like it would make one look powerful, making a mental note to wear it for presentation when he returns. He wanted... Amazing, Issei says, astonished by what was before him, but inside he was thinking, I'm so getting someone intelligent. If I form a team, I am by no means a doctor, but it wouldn't hurt to study more things, Issei says. Don't forget me, Odin says, giving Issei a giant book. This book was written by me. It's a copy that contains all my knowledge of demonic, holy, human, and god magic, and each of the runes that are there. Also, proud of himself and what he's accomplished. This is incredible, Issei says, going through the book of what he could possibly learn from it. I'm going to have to visit Tobio and Levadia. After all, she's the best mage that I know of. Unless, Issei says... Ddraig starts. Partner, we don't know if they know what the bastard of Lucifer or the Crow has done, and the only way to find out is to visit them, Ddraig said. You're right, but this gives me an opportunity as well, now that I think about it, Issei said. And what's that? Ddraig replies. I'm going to form a team. While I'm out there, we'll talk more about it later, Issei says, returning back to reality. It's nothing. Only the best for all that you've done. Boy, noticing Issei was talking to Ddraig, but leaned in and whispered to Issei, I'll find you another woman as well, Odin says, with a perverted giggle. Seraphol could only raise an eyebrow as what Odin was telling her beloved, but considering Issei's laugh at the god's antics, it shouldn't be something for her to worry about. Ddraig starts. Michael said he will give you some things when you come back, as he has some issues to attend to in heaven, Ddraig says. Issei ni, Milika says, you should store that bottle before you break it, watching Issei sort the gifts. After storing everything in space with the boosted gear, Issei stayed to talk about casual things for about 2 hours, until the time he had to leave to come. Well, it was a good talk with you, Issei says, getting up from his chair. It's time, right? Odin says, yeah, honestly, it was a mistake to be reincarnated again after Great Red made this body. I wanted to help her achieve her dream, but I will not die for them again. Not anymore. They once again didn't care about my feelings, so there's no need for me to care about theirs, Issei said. Ddraig-san said, if you took the pawn pieces out, they would kill you instantly because your power would be unbalanced, Ojuka said. That's true, but this is my one shot, and I will take it, Issei said, showing no nervousness. He wasn't going to back down now. Everyone got up and hugged Issei one by one, until Seraphol was the last one. How do we know if you survive the ritual? Seraphol says, her eyebrows showing the sadness that she kept possibly losing Issei as she held onto his shoulder to keep him in place. Easy. I will send you the pieces when I finish. So don't worry. Remember my promise. I will get stronger and I will survive. Looking back with her in determination, Issei does. Very well, but I will miss you, Seraphol says, bringing him back to her embrace. I will miss you as well. Stay beautiful, Issei says. Good luck, Sekiryuutei said, smiling at the Sergon's son. Take care of yourself, Sachi, Velena says, crying a little since she spent such a short time with him. Be mindful of your surroundings, Ddraig said in a kind tone. Be sure to study a lot, Ajuka said, smiling. Also train your body. Be sure to rest and not overdo it, in a serious tone, but if one looked closely, she had a small smile on her face, Grafia had. Goodbye, Issei ni, Milika says, hugging Grafia, but with some tears in his eyes. Don't you dare die, Xavier said. I don't want my daughter to be left alone, just as serious as the headmate of the Gremory clan. Sophia says, or Lady Citri, try to come back soon, smiling softly at her new son-in-law. Don't use those tears sloppily, Phoenix said. Diana replies, I hope everything goes well for you, hugging her husband's side. I hope you don't leave your perversion, Odin says with a smile. You know, Odin-sama. Sometimes I feel like that perversion is what put me in this mess. But it's not up to me, whether I have it or not. If I do, it will be for those that appreciate for me, and I actually value me as a person, not as a toy, with a smile, but discreetly was looking at Serafall. By the way, someone's going to have to tell Sona that I will be absent from my studies, which means she's going to have to come up with a small lie. Since, unfortunately, Rosvisa is my homeroom teacher, and if possible, can someone remove the Hyoudou surname as well, since they're so ashamed of me. Best to cut ties with them. I'll come up with a new one when I return, rubbing his back of his head, chuckling nervously at the things he almost forgot. I will look into it, Serafall says. Farewell, my sweetheart, looking at him with a small smile that he kept act in his mind until he sees her again. Of course, Issei says. He almost forgot that Sona was her sister, but seeing her serious side, it made sense that she would inform the student council president of his absence. Well, goodbye, Odin-sama, Lord Citri-sama, Lady Citri-sama, Lord Phoenix, Lady Phoenix, Beelzebub, speaking respectfully to the patriots and leaders before addressing the rest of them. Goodbye, Otoboto, Sir Zex-ni, Ani-chan. Goodbye, Sarah-chan, with a smile, before looking to the last of the people in the room. Goodbye, Oto-sama, Oko-sama, as he disappeared into the magic circle, with a smile on his face. For Zytodius and Velena, tears rolled down their eyes, as well as Zytodius was to be called an old man, but never by the title of the father from Issei, but Velena despite being called mother before it still causes her to tear up a little. Goodbye, my son, Velena says, smiling with happiness, remembering his face as he left for his journey, a smile she will never forget, and a smile she hopes she will see again. Now, somewhere in the human world. Issei appeared in a rather beautiful place, but when he arrived, a shrill sound pierced his ears, along with the sound of rushing water. Hey, Ddraig, where are we? Issei says, taking Sir Zek's advice, and being mindful of his surroundings, looked around the environment, covering his ears from the sound. We are at the Angel Falls in Vesaluna, Ddraig says. Issei turned and saw a large waterfall that was draining around the sound. It's beautiful, Issei says, removing his hands from his ears, embracing the sound of rushing water as he watched the waterfall from the cliffs. Yes, it is, Ddraig says, in agreement with Issei. And what are we doing in Vesaluza? Issei says, never taking his eye off the waterfall. Here is where we'll find the crystallized dragon heart, Ddraig says. I see, Issei replies, getting serious, knowing that they will end his suffering was here. Walk towards the waterfall. You should find a lake, Ddraig says. Okay, Issei replied, walking to where he was instructed. And Issei walked quietly, each step towards the falls. The sound of water rushing increased, but instead of disturbing him, it gave him peace. Issei, after walking a few minutes, got to where the falls ended, and it looked like a lake. The light was retracting off the water, giving it a divine atmosphere. So what now? Issei says, looking at the lake as it glistened. You have to enter, Ddraig says. Really? Issei replied. You'll see. Just get in, Ddraig says. Okay. Starting to take off his shirt, Issei starts. After removing almost all of his clothes, he prepared to enter the water. Now, coat your body with a little of your magical power, Ddraig says. All right, Issei replied. Surrounding Issei's body was an aura that was blood red, with black parts, but there was also some aspects of amber as well. This amber, what is it? Is there a dormant power within you, partner? And why does it appear now? Ddraig says. Those were the thoughts going through Dragon's head as he was trying to understand this new presence. Here we go, Issei said, throwing himself into the water. When Issei lighted in the water, his whole body began to relax. It felt incredible, and he felt more at ease. He began to notice how his energy was being pulled to the bottom, so he began to swim there. In order to prevent him from drowning, he quickly applied a small spell, as not to die from the lack of oxygen. He also amplified his sight, allowing Issei to see everything. The lake was full of fish, rocks, something that looked like coral. It was a beautiful sight. He continued further down. The route seemed infinite until he fell into a pool change of his direction to his left, so he followed it. As he swam in that direction, he noticed a feeling of entering a barrier. As he followed the pull, he entered a cave which had large sharp rocks. There were still fish in the cave, but they swam out of his way. As he swam deeper into the cave, he once again felt a change in direction. This time it was upwards, so he changed course to begin to swim upwards. As he was going up, he saw what looked like an air pocket out of a dome. He reached to the surface and arrived at a giant dome, of what looked like quartz, opal, and other rocks of many colors. Seeing as how he could breathe air, he disabled his water-breathing spell and looked around while waddling in water, seeing the form of pillars in each direction. Wow, Issei says, amazed by what he was seeing. I present to you the cave of the fallen dragon, Ddraig says, though his tone was somber rather than prideful. Why? Why is it called that, Issei says. This place is the abdomen of the corpse of the first dragon that fell, Ddraig said. Issei replies seriously, for such a name, this place is incredible, seeing the beauty of the cave. Follow your aura. It will take you to the heart, suitable for you, Ddraig says. Now, following Draig's instructions, Issei began to swim towards the direction where his aura took him. He reached a dirt road, so he got out of the water and began to walk to the depths of the cave. In every part of the walls, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of inimitable gems. There were colorful gems, but his aura did not guide him to any of the stones, so he continued to advance deeper. While walking, he saw how there was an open field, so he increased his speed towards it. When he reached the field, he gasped in surprise, because in the center of the field there was a large, if not gigantic dragon. The dragon seemed to be made of kind of diamond around it. There were still gems of all kinds. I introduce you to Sazin, the second Dragon King, the Diamond Dragon, Ddraig says. The second Dragon King. Impressed and a little confused, Issei is. Yes, the first dragon that was deceived, and that the dragon sacrificed himself so that dragons that suffer the same as he did could not advance and will not die, Ddraig says, with a respectful tone to the dragon that suffered for others to prevail. The first dragon to be deceived. He must have had a hard time. His tone was slightly sad, knowing that this dragon had given himself so that others could survive if they were deceived. Issei thinks in his own head. Yes, Ddraig says. My aura pulls me toward him. As he starts to walk towards the copse of Sanin, Issei approached the claws of Sanin, and looking closer, he noticed how there was a gem under it. And that is where we're going to stop for now. Basically in the middle of chapter 16, I'm pretty sure. The reason why I stopped now is because I gotta go help my friend out with something. Your boy's getting a little tired. You know, let's just put it this way. I had a lot of shit to deal with. You know, some of it got situated and some of it's not. Actually, I think when I'm over the summer, I'm going to talk more about things because I feel like you guys should have a right to know as why I keep taking these breaks. But thank you so much for sticking around, man. And I really do appreciate everything that you guys have done for me because if I didn't have this to come back to, I'm pretty sure I'd have depression for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And like if I wasn't able to work out and do YouTube to like calm my own mind, I probably would have just offed it by now realistically. But once again, I really do appreciate all the support with both of my channels because I know some of my viewers on here and other channels are the same viewers. Not many, of course, because I know I have literally a Dragon Ball channel and a High School DxD channel, which is probably the furthest thing apart of all time. And I have completely two different audiences, but I would appreciate everyone sticking around. If you want to become a limit breaker or a balance breaker, click the first link down in the description below to know my upload schedule once again. But yeah, like I always appreciate it. You know, I also like have looked into like getting sponsors and things like that. I've only had like a couple sponsors, but it just seems like everyone's a scammer these days, so I don't know who to trust. I already have trust issues and things like that. So thank you so much for the support, man. You know, I really want to say this one thing, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it anyway. Women, no, I'm just kidding. But, like, overall, guys, like, you know, like, don't let a girl disturb your peace of happiness, or if there's a girl watching, don't let a guy disturb your peace of mind, because I've learned the hard way as of recent that things like that just have to go down the bad route. And unfortunately for me, I'm picking the no enemies route, and I'm just going to let it go, because I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think this one's just not my fault. So once again, thank you for the support. Hopefully we get like 300, 400 likes. And without further ado, Spartanic Arts DXD out.